Okay, hi everybody. My name is Miranda White. Again, I'm a recent Bethune-Cookman graduate majoring in integrated environmental science. And today I'll be presenting my graduate research titled Analyzing the Effectiveness of Living Shorelines in Mitigating Non-Point Source Pollution in the Mosquito Lagoon. So coastal wetlands throughout the country have been eliminated and converted to support agriculture and city development, which has effectively altered the functionality of natural watersheds across the nation. The replacement of permeable surfaces to impervious surfaces has led to the mismanagement of stormwater runoff in coastal areas, often releasing harmful levels of nutrients and sediments from various non-point sources into estuarine and marine waters. The Mosquito Lagoon, located along the eastern coast of Volusia and Brevard counties, is a coastal estuary that covers approximately 54 square kilometers and is also the northernmost lagoon in the Indian River Lagoon National Estuary. Historically, the approach to ditch, drain, and fill wetland and floodplain areas was widely accepted to convey stormwater away from newly created development. These alterations unfortunately led to almost 75% of all salt marshes lost or degraded within the watershed, and also led to changes in the hydrology of the watershed as a whole. Today, the most prevalent land use type in the northern Indian River Lagoon are residential properties owned by either local landowners, roads, and protected park areas. In fact, a total of 65% of the northern IRL is categorized as hard shoreline constructed with either hard slope or bulkhead structures. With almost 80% of the residential properties categorized as armored shorelines, residential property owners have the potential to play a large part in the restoration of natural-based shorelines in the watershed. So one man-made resource capable of mitigating the impacts of non-point source pollution within urbanized coastal systems are living shorelines, forms of soft infrastructure that simulate the natural coastline by utilizing native plants and other natural buffers that have been shown to promote habitat and shoreline resilience, reduce erosion along coastlines, and sequester nutrients found in surface waters. This highlights the need to increase education on the true benefits of living shoreline implementation on private properties in the northern IRL. So my research goal is to compare living shorelines and conventional turfgrass lawns at publicly and privately owned waterfront properties for their efficiency in the mitigation of non-point source pollution, their provision of organic storage, and lastly, their appeals to waterfront homeowner preferences within the Indian River Lagoon watershed. To test the nutrient buffering capabilities of living shorelines versus turfgrass lawns, sites located along the shorelines of the Mosquito Lagoon and local retention ponds were contrasted. The two varying shoreline types provide a contrast between the vegetative capabilities of the native plants and turfgrass within both estuarine waters and retention pond sites within the Mosquito Lagoon watershed. Half of all the research sites were selected to have native Floridian plants installed, while the remaining sites served as control sites and consisted of turfgrass lawns. We then monitored surface water quality and vegetative measures of each site over a 3-year period. Throughout the sampling period, the BCU research team also engaged with project participants in order to increase awareness of potential nutrient pollution impacts via stormwater runoff. And while doing so, we monitored residential properties owners' knowledge and behavior of eco-friendly lawn management practices through the utilization of native plants. Now on to methodology and my research design. So the study was designed using 2 factors or independent variables. The first factor was vegetation type or living shoreline versus turfgrass lawns, and the second factor was time, 2017, 2018, and 2019. Throughout the sampling period, a total of 25 dependent or response variables were collected and stratified into 5 sample sets. The first set was simulated rain event parameters. The second set was laboratory measured surface water quality parameters. The third set was field measured surface water parameters. And the fourth were vegetation parameters. And the fifth set were our soil parameters. Now, the recruitment and selection process was initiated in 2016 and lasted approximately 9 months. Using orthophotography sourced by Terrametrics via Google Earth In addition to visual surveys, boat surveys, and also personal accounts, BCU researchers, along with project partners that you see on the slide here, worked together to identify 20 waterfront properties bordering the Mosquito Lagoon and 10 similarly sized coastal retention ponds within the watershed. Property owners were solicited through mailings, door-to-door interviews, and through information located at the Marine Discovery Center. And once conversing with an interested public, they often knew of others who lived on the water, were able to refer others to the project, and also gave the researchers the opportunity to discuss a little bit more about alternative shoreline strategies with the locals. Now, there were critical criteria when selecting both coastal retention pond sites and Mosquito Lagoon sites for the study. 30 sites were selected in the cities of New Smyrna Beach, Edgewater, and Oak Hill in order to compare the effectiveness of non-point source pollution reduction of both turf grass and living shorelines. Half of all the sites were selected to have installed living shorelines, while the remaining sites acted as control sites with predominantly turf grass lawns. The construction of the living shorelines followed the planning protocols established by the Florida Department of Environmental Protection's Living Shoreline Restoration Project. It's also an extension of the FDEP's ongoing shoreline restoration project. Field and lab surface water quality and vegetation measures were monitored quarterly, while water quality and soil measures were sampled annually using a simulated rain event apparatus by the BCU research team, which you see in this video here. The sampling process started in 2017 and ended in 2020 with some sampling delays due to COVID-19. Here you see one of our previous graduate students extracting our runoff measures that we sampled on an annual basis. I'm not sure if you guys heard me through that. I'm not sure if you guys heard, but I apologize. We started in 2017 and ended in 2020. And this is our SRE apparatus that actually the BCU research team utilized for the first time. So to determine any significant differences between vegetation types through time, a series of permutational analyses were used for each of the 5 sample sets measured each year. I first started by running a per-man NOVAR, or a repeated measure permutational multivariate analysis of variance tests on all 5 sample sets. Following the per-man NOVAR, a series of 2-way per-an NOVARs, or repeated measure permutational analysis of variance tests, were employed to each of the individual sample sets that were determined to be significantly different from the previously tested per-man NOVAR. Following the per-an NOVARs, post hoc tests were completed on the significant per-an NOVAR results between the treatments using permutational t-tests. Now moving on to social survey methods. Surveyed annual feedback from project participants in 2017 and 2021 was also conducted in order to evaluate gains or losses of eco-friendly yard management, knowledge, and behaviors over the sampling period. Survey questions associated with knowledge-based and behavior-based categories are displayed here. Although there were various land use types that participated in the study, only participating homeowners whose residential properties were used as samples were targeted for environmental education and survey participation. Homeowner pre and post surveys, post-survey answers were converted to quantitative scores for further analyses to compare survey topic categories. Each question was scored from 0 to 1, with 0 being the lowest environmentally aware or friendly, and 1 being the most environmentally aware or friendly. In order to determine if there was a significant difference in knowledge or behavior scores between pre and post surveys, survey scores were tested using a permutational t-test for each question set using R software. The analysis compares the difference in scores to 0 in order to evaluate significant positive or negative change in both knowledge and behavior. Now jumping into results. The sampling ranges of surface water quality, including nutrient and water quality results at each of the sites, were comparable to those historically monitored by local and regional literature. And according to the per-an NOVAR results, there were no significant differences in surface water quality by vegetation type throughout the 3-year sampling period. When looking at the SRE per-an NOVAR, we see that at lagoon sites, ammonia and nitrate measured in runoff differed significantly through time, increasing in concentration in 2018, however, not by vegetation type nor the interaction between the two. Orthophosphate concentrations displayed significant differences through both time and vegetation type, however, not by their interaction. It was observed that even with the spike in runoff ammonia, nitrate, and orthophosphate concentrations in 2018, levels stayed within the suggested ranges mandated by the EPA. According to the vegetation per ANOVAR at lagoon sites, percent vegetation coverage was significantly different by vegetation type, with higher coverage at turfgrass sites compared to living shoreline sites. Tallest and average plant height differed significantly through vegetation type, time, and the interaction between the two. Plant height at living shorelines increased throughout the sampling period, while turfgrass height at control lagoon sites remained consistent and displayed substantially lower heights compared to planted sites. Moving on to the knowledge-based results. After pairing 2017 and 2021 surveys, it was observed that in the beginning of the project, 40% of the homeowners surveyed appeared to have general knowledge of Florida-friendly yard management practices. Post-survey results indicated further positive results preceding Orozco's 2018 study, one of our previous graduate students. By the end of the project in 2021, 80% of the homeowners surveyed displayed gains in knowledge of fertilizer applications and regulations, private property nutrient pollution impacts, and living shoreline benefits relating to nutrient buffering capabilities. Overall, homeowners expressed valuable information gained throughout the project, including living shoreline erosion benefits, waterfront homeowner impacts and solutions for stormwater control, background, maintenance, and environmental benefits of Floridian native wetland plants, and the benefits of community stewardship and environmental education in the area. Now moving on to behavior-based results. So natural approaches such as living shorelines and vegetable gardens that are utilized in residential lawns can often be seen as potential nuisance-causing property. Nuisance-causing property is described in a way that emphasizes the requirement of extra maintenance and the possibility of impeding neighborhoods from maintaining the tidy and uniform aesthetic of their community. Within this thesis research, we see the same attitude shared toward the need to apply fertilizer and to frequently mow and water their lawns on a set schedule. After surveying in 2021, collectively 60% of the homeowners surveyed became more environmentally friendly following the study, while 30% of the homeowners digressed in their environmentally friendly lawn management practices. The remaining 10% of the respondents displayed no change in their behavior, however, displayed positive behavior relative to eco-friendly yard management throughout the duration of the project. By the end of the project, 90% of the respondents expressed that they would implement additional natural approaches on their waterfront properties and even recommend a similar project to others, with the exception of one control site homeowner who indicated they needed a bit more information. Some of the homeowners, I'm sorry, I'm trying to speed up because I know I'm kind of running low on time. But I want to note that even some of the homeowners at neighboring control sites that did not receive a shoreline planning that you see to the right here expressed interest in installing a similar living shoreline design at their properties, as well as some living shoreline participants implementing more natural approaches to their shorelines, such as including oyster beds to their installed living shorelines, or even adding even more Floridian beds to their front and backyards. So finally, in conclusion, although cumulative SRE, surface water, and vegetative quality results revealed low performance of the removal of nutrients within the Mosquito Lagoon for the first 3 years of installation, it also infers that these living shoreline sites may need a bit more time to gain further structural complexity before optimal nutrient removal capacities are reached based on previous literature. Overall, again, homeowners expressed valuable information gained throughout the project, and we learned a bit too. Frequent communication with homeowners and definitive roles between the BCU team and the project participants was critical in facilitating engagement, implementation, and knowledge retention. Needs and local context change throughout a project, and without consistent check-ins with project participants, the intentions of the goals of the project may be lost or even less important to project participants. The consistency of the research team when conducting multiple forms of surface water and vegetative measures, as well as when engaging with participating homeowners, is prudent to accurate and reliable data collection and retrieval. This will alleviate not only inconsistent sampling methods and missing data, but also further strengthen ties with stakeholders. Further and more consistent environmental education and stakeholder engagement practices are needed to promote this approach across and throughout the Mosquito Lagoon community in order to see a larger nutrient mitigation impact within the watershed. Thank you so much. These are my acknowledgements. I would like to thank everybody for listening. Hopefully we have time for questions.
All right, thank you.